I feel that if you want to develop something, it's really interesting to ask yourself what is missing out there. What do you want to achieve that's new? What are you bringing to the table that no one else before you has brought? And I think these
Mhm.
are the interesting questions that can sort of push the art form further.
Fantastic. The intro just finished. For people who are familiar with the show, we're fading straight in. And now I'm going to start off with, well, first of all, welcoming everyone to the podcast. We have a special guest today. My first challenge is going to be saying your name properly. So I'm going to try and avoid making a mishap right away. I'll leave you maybe introduce yourself. And for people who aren't familiar with you, a little bit about yourself,
Yeah.
and we'll take it from there.
Okay, perfect. So my name is Taha Mansour. Maybe you were going to say it that way, so maybe that would have
But
worked.
I know you speak French as well, so I would have
Yes.
said like Taha Mansour, but
Oh yeah, as well. It works. Well, I'm from a Lebanese origin, so
okay.
it's
Great food.
sort of a mixture culture. But yeah, in French it would be Taha Mansour. Absolutely. So yeah, I'm a French mentalist. I started by doing engineering studies,
Mhm.
in design engineering, and then I started becoming interested in like theater performance ever since I was like in high school. That's when I started really mentalism. So I sort of fell in love with like the capacity to create wonder and amazement in other people's eyes, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. So I started developing my own stuff, and when I finished writing my first show, I was in first year of my engineering school. I performed my show there, it worked really well, and then starting off next year, I started performing in Paris in Persian theaters in parallel of my studies. And that's when like I started continuing on, which is what I do today. Is I'm a mentalist, author, and stage writer and stage director. So I produce a bunch of different shows. In parallel to that, I sort of use these competences and skills that I've taken from mentalism, combine them with a bunch of other certifications and I would say diplomas that I passed, studies that I've taken in neuroscience and cognitive psychology, master practitioner and NLP, hypnotherapist, and I've sort of been studying like negotiation and influence and stuff like that all around. And so this is my second activity, which is I teach in university, in business and engineering schools, and also I intervene a lot in companies on like management styles, efficient motivational skills, how to deal with conflict, how to negotiate efficiently, how to accompany a client, that sort of
So you're
stuff.
so you're 53, 55 years old.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That would put me around 150. Yeah, makes sense.
Sort of. Yeah, I've done a lot of things since I started very young.
How
People
old are
always
you
give me,
right now? You still, I mean, you're very young.
how much would you give me? I'm really
I would
curious.
say 32.
No, 27.
Oh, sorry. See, I was giving you
27.
wisdom. So 27 and the added years were just extra wisdom.
Extra wisdom. Oh, I'm glad about that. But since I started, like I remember my first training that I gave in companies on like efficient storytelling and charisma was I was like 20 or 21, and
Mhm.
people used to give me like something along the lines of like 30 or 35 years old. So I'm often used to like people portraying me a much larger age, but that's a good sign. It's always been good ever
Well, in all
since.
honesty, because what you're describing is a lot of channels that have to do with a certain maturity. I mean, an engineer, it's because you've already accomplished certain tasks to be able to jump into engineering. You can't just say, my
Yeah.
first task of learning is engineering. So right away, there's a lot of discipline that goes into that, and all the other things that you mentioned as well. So there's a lot. There seems to be like discipline in there, which is something
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
we'll be able to talk about also. And I think that you currently have some projects that are in the public
Yes.
eye.
So I just released in English my project Practical Cold Reading with Vanishing Ink. I'm really happy because I was not expecting it to have that much success, but I stayed like in for 1 week in the top first or top three sales worldwide on Vanishing. So that was really amazing.
Congratulations.
Thank
Congratulations.
you. I honestly was not expecting that because this is a lecture. I've been a bit about my style and mentalism and how I came to do that. I've been publishing some stuff in mentalism to the French community
Hmm.
for a couple of years now. And when I started developing cold reading, which is something that I've developed over a bunch of years and sort of get into like the psychology behind it,
Hmm.
I hesitated before publishing it because in my mind it was like something very complex. It takes time to practice. It's not like the easy to do instant reset type stuff that you sometimes see, right?
Yep.
So I hesitated before publishing it, and the reactions in France, at least, were really amazing. People were really impressed by the system behind it. They were really getting the grasp of it and using it a bunch. And so once we saw that, me and Thomas Thibault, who like produces the editing and the filming of the project, we were
Mhm.
like, well, maybe let's release it in English. And since I'm bilingual, we were like, yeah, why not? It wasn't my first publication in English. I published two smaller effects, and I did once a lecture on one of my projects at the Minds Convention by Michael Murray in Newcastle. But this was my first like big project that I launched in English, and honestly, the reactions have been really great. So I'm really happy about that.
Oh, fantastic. So for people, well, now we basically have been introduced to you. So people who aren't familiar with the show, I'll introduce a little bit what the idea is behind this. So the name is basically the process. And
Mm.
we're just talking about psychology and stuff like that. So what I've discovered is that consciously or subconsciously, there seems to be 5 steps within the creative process. Okay. So
Okay.
so the first one would be inspiration. It's what people do on a regular basis to stay inspired because it's a little bit like
Mm.
once you become saturated with what you know, what you do outside of that to keep to be inspired. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And step two would be incubation. So how
Hmm.
do you set aside or organize your time to be able to marinate the
All
inspiration?
of that.
Okay. To get to step three, which would be the illumination or the eureka moment. Okay.
Hmm.
So for you, what are there any patterns that lead you to experiencing that eureka moment more frequently? When you do have that eureka moment, what kind of habits do you have? Do you drop everything and you have to explore that idea until it's completed? Or are you able to write it down and come back to it later? Step four would be exploration.
Hmm.
So how do you take that idea and then start exploring, let's say like a butcher, you're cutting away the fat to be able to get to rendering the beautiful meat and the presenting of that. Are you someone who has no problem of sharing your work with other people to maybe get a little bit of ideas? Do you rather be in your shell and work on your own, maybe? And then step five, the final one would be implementation. Certain
Hmm.
people, they enjoy the high of step three, which is they get the idea,
Yeah.
they start exploring it, and that's enough for them, because they're creative. But other people, well, I think such as yourself, is that they want to give a life to that idea, so it
Yeah.
becomes an entity in
It becomes
itself.
something in the end. Yeah.
Exactly. So well, there's a lot of things even for myself, like you're saying you go to conventions and you do lectures. How does one even get invited to these things? Like there's steps to all these things. Like you say you do a show example in Paris. I mean, that is organizational. There's a lot of things. There's steps to be able to do that. So just like engineering, you can't just jump into it like that. So I'm really curious to see, what we can learn from you We'll start with step one, inspiration. Already we have some stuff behind it. I love the mishmash of all the styles. It's incredible.
Oh
Talk
yeah,
about the opera with a little bit of cowboy, almost a Bauhaus style poster in the background. I like.
yeah.
Yeah. I like that.
Oh my God. First of all, I really love the structure of the interview. It speaks a lot for me, so that's great. So step one for inspiration. I went through a couple of different stages. So the first thing, my first interaction with arts was music. I
Hmm.
sing, and I've been singing since I was like 6 or 7. I do a lot of musicals, and this year, for example, I'm in a musical that we're putting up with my theater company, and so I've loved singing. I did a lot of like concerts and stuff like that. So music has been a really big part of that. The second thing that has always inspired me and something that came afterwards is science and the fascinating phenomenon behind the world. Like I'm an engineer, right? So it makes sense that way. And the
Hmm.
thing that came afterwards, which was something that sort of struck with me, is the I would say the hidden capacities
Hmm.
of people. I'm not talking like energetic styles or like the 10% of the brain. It's not that type. It's just that I feel that we're losing track of like real intuitive capabilities and real understanding what a human being can do in terms of interaction, in terms of what they can develop, sort of. And so that sort of stuck with me. And I always continuously read like the latest articles and research in neuroscience or in cognitive psychology. Always stay awake on like the advances on intuition and
Hmm.
on influence of different dynamics. And since I'm a very obsessional guy, I when I fall in love with something, I want to study it from a bunch of different angles.
Yeah.
So that's where it took me that way. So whenever I see like I was like, huh, influence is interesting, right? But so how can we study it? So I
Hmm.
took some classes on like NLP, neuro linguistic programming, and I pushed to the limit to become a master practitioner. I also studied hypnosis and that intervening here. I did a certification with Harvard on like negotiation, which was a more like business mediation style aspect to it. And what fascinates me is creating links between all of these elements. I'm like, huh, they say that here with these words, but
Yeah.
that's exactly the same thing that these guys are saying. And I feel that that's how you can sort of connect and understand better how we function. I don't know if that
Mhm.
makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So that's one of the things that the second thing that I think inspires me a lot. And the third is, and it's one of the things that I always try to implement in the new shows that I'm producing or I'm writing,
Mhm.
is pushing the boundaries of what a show can do. What I
Mhm.
mean by that is I'm always fascinated by like the rules and how we can break them.
Yeah.
So for
Like Buddhist
instance,
philosophy, learn the rules well to break them well.
exactly. That's exactly it. My first show, The Butterfly Effect, is something that I've been performing now for 7 years, approximately. Behind the show was the fact that when I started watching magicians and mentalists in France and around the world, I felt that most shows were like a sequencing of different tricks or experiences, right? And yeah, there is some cohesion, sort of, but there wasn't a story. It was lacking like a storyline or something more theatrical. And I was like, let's add some theater to it. Let's add something that is goes over and beyond the mere trick that I'm showing, basically. This is something that I've tried to push further with the second show that I produced, where it's a play. So what I mean by that is I'm performing a character. There's a story, so a literal story that goes by emotions and things happening, etc. And people that come on stage become characters of that story by
Mhm.
being themselves.
Mhm.
So it puts them in a very weird spot. And the reaction that I found was that when people would come out of that show, it's not like, wow, that's amazing. I don't know how you did it. People come out and they go, what the fuck just happened? And
Yeah.
there's something very weird
Hmm.
because we're mixing fiction and reality. And it's one of the things that really inspires me is like how we can push these boundaries and how we can sort of push these rules to take us to experiences that have never been felt before. I would say these are like the three main, and I really like watching movies and studying all sorts of other types of arts just to see what different art forms can do. I fundamentally believe that inspiration cannot come from the art form that you're in, and that
Hmm.
you need to take it from somewhere else, right?
That is actually
Um,
something that comes up regularly through the interviews I do
yeah.
because initially, like this is something that I say almost now regularly in the interviews is that well, now we're entering closing on close to 15 interviews. So when you have a body of work, then some patterns can emerge, and that seem to be something in your personality where you're saying you do multiple different things, and you have the ability to see the correlations between different,
Yes.
even if they're completely different. Yeah. So that's it. I was hoping with the podcast that there would be some threads that would come through, and one that does come often is that to be good at magic, you have to not concentrate and study magic. It's everything else but that. Mm,
It's and I think it makes sense. Like one thing that I realized is magic and mentalism is the only art form in the world for now that I've seen where there is an actual industry where you can like buy performances. That
yeah.
sounds weird, right? You can't buy a performance of piano. You can't buy a does that make sense? Like you can buy some things that can help you out, but the idea of buying something, which I find by the way is a real chance that we have, right?
Yeah.
Like it's something that there is a community that's sharing different ideas and elements, stuff like that. So I find that it's really fascinating. But what I tend to see is also on the other side of the medallion
Exactly. I was
is
going to say it's a double-edged sword for
oh
sure.
yeah, there we go. So it's a real chance that we have, but on the other hand, like when you take, for example, a look at what directors tell you when they've produced or directed a movie, how a character or an actor went into understanding their character, how a musician composed their work, they're
Mm,
always telling you, well, I wanted to establish this emotion, or
mhm,
Christopher Nolan tells you I was fascinated by the paradoxes of time and I wanted to show this, or so the inspiration is always elsewhere.
mhm.
It's rarely the case, except if it's like fundamentally the thing that you want to put on stage. But it's rarely the case where like a musician says, I listened to that piece of music and I wanted to do something similar.
Yeah. Well, that's called well, that's the thing because I have a little bit of background in music as well.
Yeah.
And in music, when that happens, it's called a cover.
Yeah,
You know what I
absolutely.
mean? And if you reinterpret it and give it a modern touch, it could be a remix,
Yeah.
you know? So, but in the mentalism and magic community, I find that it sounds like people don't like that propagation of ideas because there's certain ego wants to, everyone wants to be the owner of the unique idea.
Hmm.
And it creates a lot of conflict. And that is something that I find personally, it's a little bit unfortunate.
Yeah.
But it's not a general case, I would say, or else like we wouldn't be talking necessarily. But yeah, it's like like you said, it's a double-edged sword or a two-sided coin, you know? Just out of
Yeah.
curiosity, out of your inspiration, and since that you like tech, what are your impressions on AI today?
I love that idea. Um, so I think it's a very powerful tool once you use it correctly.
Mhm,
What I mean by that is it's something that I also see a lot since I'm a trainer in like soft skills and social and interpersonal skills. What I'm seeing more and more when I'm intervening for like students and managers and stuff like that is that we're today more often than not replacing natural human abilities by
mhm,
delegating them to AI. I think that's not nice. So,
mhm,
for instance, I remember last time there was a friend of mine who was telling me, yeah, I had a mail. I didn't know how to answer that mail. So I asked ChatGPT how to answer that mail to apologize. And it wrote the perfect apology. And I was like, really, is that the case? Are we
mhm,
as human beings not able anymore to contact our emotions and just try and establish a communication? And I feel that if it's done without understanding of like it being a tool, we
mhm.
lose the capacity of developing new skills. And for
Definitely,
instance, one of the skill is patience. Another
definitely.
skill is the capacity to like be creative and solve problems, right? If your instant uh reflex is just to
Yeah.
ask the question to AI, we start to lose these skills. On
Well,
the other
see
hand,
that
yeah,
I
sorry.
find there's a correlation with the magic industry we were just talking about is that when you buy the secrets, you
Yes,
use the skill set because you got the end result.
yes,
And you
absolutely.
expect that when seeing the tutorial that you have bought the skills.
And it's not like that's I like the analogy. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's completely true.
Mhm.
However, it can be really powerful. So if you take like for example a trick, if you already know what you want to do as an artist,
Mhm.
right? Or you want to achieve something, and then you go, huh, this technology or this trick or this method allows me to go there, you're still in control of the entire objective. And this is what's interesting is that it's a tool, just like AI. If, for
Mhm.
example, there is something that I know I want to go to that endpoint, right? But I need some help with creating ideas at a
Yes.
specific moment or finding inspiration. Or, for example, for me, I have a book that's coming out in March in French, and I
Mhm.
did a lot of like bibliography studies and research on like
Mhm.
finding the scientific articles and stuff like that to prove the different points. AI has helped a lot, right?
Yes,
Like when you
definitely.
go to AI and go, hey, can you find me all the scientific articles that talk about this and that? And so
Yes.
this has saved me a lot of time. So I think it's a really powerful tool, but I think people are losing track of being or wanting to create a vision or wanting
Yeah.
to develop something specific.
Well, see, that's the thing. I think that you've expressed it perfectly because it's the journey of getting to
Mm,
the objective that is where you learn the skills through adversity.
yes,
And if you're willing to put yourself through that adversity, you're going to just you'll grow through it because there's no growth without a little bit of adversity.
adversity and problems.
It's not just free, because if it was free, that's called skill. So and you can use this skill, but there's a limitation to this.
I agree.
Yeah. So you were just saying that, writing a book and all that, so that we could go segue to phase two in the process would be exploration, not exploration, my bad, but incubation. And
Incubation.
so setting aside time to refine those ideas, because I could just
Yeah,
imagine multiple ideas, some on a back burner,
yeah.
and then through that, you have a little bit of eureka going on. That, I'm gonna stop what I'm almost finished because I just got that new idea now. And so, so how do you go about
Yeah,
that?
so how do I deal with that? It's something that I've worked a lot, especially when producing shows, because in a show it takes a long time to put up, right? And it's a huge process. And so you really have to believe in the vision that you want to develop,
Yes.
and really understanding that. Like for my first show, it took me, so I was doing a bunch of other things in parallel, so it doesn't count, but like from the start to the end, it took me 3 years. My second show more intensely because I was writing like every week. It took me a year and a half. Now I'm stage directing a show. I'm not on stage, but I co-wrote it.
Mhm.
We started writing end of 2023. We finished writing this April, so it took us a year and a half of writing, and now we're finalizing everything like the costumes, the set props, creating the lights and the sounds and the music, and so there is a lot of money, time, investments, all sorts that goes in. And if you don't, from my experience at least, if you don't have like a specific vision of at
Mhm.
least what you're trying to achieve, not necessarily like being psycho rigid of
No.
how it's going to look like, but
Mhm.
being knowing where you're going and trying to find a way of knowing are you getting closer to that objective or
Yeah.
not, you can lose a lot of energy, a lot of effort, and you can abandon these ideas.
Yeah.
So the way I achieve that is two things. The first one is something that I read a entrepreneur say, and it really changed my life. Is so I'm completely independent, right? So between the training sessions that I do, the consulting, the creation of magic, and like producing and me performing shows, I need to deal with my agenda. I don't have like a salary that comes every month. If I'm not
Mhm.
working, I'm not getting paid. So basically,
Mhm.
and so
That's a good
one thing that,
motivation usually.
sorry.
That's a good motivation
Yeah, it is
usually.
a good motivation. That's true. I'm not gonna say it pushes you to be like very aware of how you use your time. And I remember there was a study I saw on why people tend to be frustrated and not use efficiently their time in life is because we tend to see, for instance, if you're working, you tend to see the difference between like your work life and your personal life, right? And you tend
Mhm.
to say, oh, or maybe the difference between your work and your hobbies, and you tend to see them as opposing things. The problem with this discussion is that the mind, the human brain,
Mhm.
is not meant to optimize many lives. It's meant to optimize one.
Okay.
And one thing that the mind doesn't like
Mhm.
is losing things.
Okay.
So when you're telling it, right, I have my work life and I have my personal life, Your brain
Okay.
goes, I have two lives. I want the most of both.
Okay.
And if I want the most of both, then that means I will be always frustrated. And so, how do you change that? Well,
Hmm.
what you change, and this is how I implement my day-to-day life, is you move from understanding lives or projects
Hmm.
to one life, but with many different tasks.
Yes.
And so, for example, spending time with your family is a task.
Hmm.
Taking a holiday is a task, but also finishing the project is a task. Working on that project is a task. Incubating is a task, etc.,
Yes.
etc. What that has given me is that I feel that it has allowed me to take even more control on the time in front of me. And it's not like after 18 o'clock I'm not working or anything else. It's just, okay, these tasks are important. How
Hmm.
do I put them all in my agenda? And once I've put all these different tasks, I just follow them. And so, for example, for the incubating, I've got many different techniques to do so. Every month, I allow myself at least half a day
Hmm.
where I just think about things.
Yeah.
And that's the only constraint. Think about
Daydream.
things. Daydream, write stuff, read something, go walk, something like
Hmm.
that. When I was writing my book, I took some time off and I went abroad and I stayed there for a couple of weeks. And my only task there was write. So I can take as many pauses as I want, can relax as much as I want, but that's the only thing. I shut down my mail, I shut down my phone, wasn't looking at anything else. I was just like, you wake up in the morning, you write. Then you eat, then you write. Then you look for inspiration, then you write, right?
But because what I see, or correct me if I'm wrong, that you seem to strive when you give yourself self limitations.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's 100% correct. I'm a huge believer in creative constraints.
Yes, huh?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
100%. I
When
think
it's
there
too
is
open,
doesn't work.
it doesn't work. Yeah, because yeah, you don't know it's there's no road.
Yes,
Yeah.
I 100% agree. It was one of the things that I tried to do in my mentalism shows was like for instance, one of the constraints that I gave myself is no electronics, no apps.
Okay, yeah, see.
That's just basically it.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that I'm against it and I find
No.
that there are really fascinating stuff. But
Hmm.
just for me, I remember that this is a constraint. And I know that for some effects, I've had some like magician or mentalist friends go, oh, but why are you doing that with bullets and stuff like that, where it would be way easier to do an app? And they might be right temporarily. So, like
Hmm.
for that effect specifically, maybe I'm busting my ass for no reason.
Yeah.
The reality is that what that has allowed me is that it's allowed me to develop all the other things that wouldn't have been created without these constraints, just like you were saying.
Hmm.
And so I think it's really important to give ourselves these like challenges or constraints, which also go into the vision. Like, what am I trying to develop? What do I want to achieve? And I feel that when I see, when I talk with other magicians or mentalists, most often than not, it's just about like, oh, let's just perform. But if I feel that if you want to develop something, it's really interesting to ask yourself what is missing out there. What do you want to achieve that's new? What are you bringing to the table that no one else before you has brought? And I think
Hmm.
these are the interesting questions that can sort of push the art from further.
Oh, definitely, yeah, for sure. So that would lead us to, let's say, step three, the Eureka moment. I guess that must happen regularly since that there's multiple things going on. I guess it requires a discipline too, I mean, as well in regards to saying the idea came. I gotta control myself not to abandon everything else that's rolling at the
Yeah,
present time. So yeah, I'm curious, how does that happen for you?
how I deal with that. That's a good question.
Because sometimes they're so inspiring, these ideas,
Mm,
you know. And
you
also,
want
I'm really curious, just on a side note, is that let's say you have an idea and you like for everything that you have in front of you, all the research you've done, you truly believe that you're the unique originator of this. Or is there ways of confirming that?
oh, if
Yeah,
you're the originator of
you're
that.
originator.
Okay.
And if you are not, what happens? Like, does that mean death? And then like everything stops and you know?
No, no, I completely see what you mean. I'm going to answer both.
Yeah, sorry, yeah.
No, no, no problem. It's really fascinating. There is one thing though that I'll start, which I think will a little bit answer both questions is my relationship with ideas.
Hmm.
In my last year, my second master degree of engineering, I specialized in entrepreneuria. Entrepreneurism? Entrepreneuria?
Yeah,
Entre
yeah.
yeah, sort of
Entrepreneur.
entrepreneurism, right? Is that how you
Okay.
say it?
Yeah,
I don't
that's
know.
it.
Yeah.
That is
Study of entrepreneur,
it.
basically, and how to develop like a company and stuff like that.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And so one thing that our like the entrepreneurs that came and that discussed with that told us, and that I regularly apply, is that ideas have no value
Hmm.
if they're not implemented. Everybody can get ideas.
Yes,
Everyone can.
exactly.
And so one of the things that I realized, and afterwards that I realized when I accompany like entrepreneurs on their identity on or their marketing strategy and stuff like that, is that usually you get that idea and you
Yeah,
hold on to it, right? You're like,
yeah.
"Ugh, I want to keep it. I don't want to share it with anybody because they can steal it from me." And the truth of the matter is, the idea, anybody can take it. If it came to you in a second, it
Hmm.
can come to someone else in a second as well.
Yes, it does. And it sometimes does.
Yes, the
Synchronicity.
difference. Yes, exactly. Synchronicities, and they happen. So what I realized is that let go of like valorizing that much the
Hmm.
idea type.
Hmm.
However, I put a lot more effort in
Hmm.
how do you pass from an idea to a
Yeah,
concrete
yeah,
realization,
yeah.
something
Anyone can have an
that's
idea, but not anyone could bring it to life.
exactly. And I remember our teacher in entrepreneur classes told us something that was really powerful was that one of my classmates asked him, yeah, but what if like we share an idea to a person of like a startup we have, and that person like
Mhm.
sort of quickly I don't know, posts about it and starts declaring stuff and stuff like that and launches the project. What happens? Isn't that a bad thing? And our teacher replied, if that happens, that means that person understood that idea way better than you
Hmm.
because they went to the extra mile.
Yeah.
And that means that it wasn't your idea to begin with, and probably leave that person a couple of weeks, they would have found that same idea.
You know how hard that is going to be for certain people to digest?
Yeah, I know.
That is like the worst thing, but that is honest wisdom.
Yeah,
It sucks, but it's true.
but it's true. It's also something else. I know that when I and I know maybe people like hearing this are going to go, "What? No, these are my ideas." I also felt something else, which is like, for example, now I don't care about sharing ideas. Like I
Mhm.
always talk when I go to like conventions stuff like that. I always share my different ideas. I share methods. I don't care about that because I feel that like for example, when I publish something, people buying something that I've published, it's not just the idea they're buying. It's
Mhm.
the methods behind it. It's the fact that they can practically see me repeatedly doing it. And it's not the idea. Like the idea is there to
Mhm.
give out. And the second thing that I found, which I think is a positive thing, letting go of of present ideas
Mhm.
also means something else. It means that you believe that in the future you'll get better ideas.
Exactly. Yeah.
Whereas if
Yeah.
you stick with the idea that you have,
Yeah.
there is a belief in you that you won't do anything better or as good as in the future. And I find that it's a very sad belief. I prefer to believe that if a person was to steal one of my ideas, right? If they were to like advance before me and I wouldn't be able to use it, that's fine because I believe in my capacity of generating more ideas in the future.
Yeah.
And I think this is an interesting and important part.
Also, like you're saying,
Um,
maybe I get the impression that if you're just trying to chokehold an idea, you're putting all of your intention onto that, which is not leaving new ideas come in.
yes.
So you're
Oh, as
gating
well.
yourself off.
Yeah, yeah, you're closing doors.
Yeah, because you're just stuck on that one idea. So you're not even giving yourself the opportunity for that idea to grow because you're just so stuck on your ego holding onto that one.
And I'll tell you the sort of person, and I'm sure you've probably seen, you know, those people that like look at something that's come out or like a new company or even a trick, right? And they
I
tell you,
could have
"Oh,
done
I had that idea a couple of years." Yeah, right?
that.
You
See?
see that? Maybe
Yeah.
it's true. Maybe they had that idea a couple of
You know
years.
what's the difference? You didn't.
Exactly.
That's
You
the
didn't
difference.
put the effort in. You didn't struggle.
You
You
did,
didn't push it out. You didn't put your money and time into like believing in that
you didn't
idea.
even write it down. You just
Exactly.
didn't. You
Get a
just
job.
didn't even do the bare minimum of even putting it online to say that you have an idea. Like there's,
Exactly.
yeah.
You didn't share it, and I think it's really important for, uh, like at least my advice would be if you want to develop something,
Hmm.
well, if there are ideas that come by, if you don't believe in them, let them go, and it's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
And I would say that every day I've got a bunch of different ideas. Those that I really believe in, I try and see how I can incrust them into like my project. Those that I don't believe in them, maybe sometimes what I often do is I'll share them to
Mm.
someone who
Yeah. Who
might
bring them
develop them, right?
exactly to
And I
another
don't care.
level. And then the water raises for all the ships, anyways. Yeah.
Exactly.
But that's
And
it's
it's
all
cool.
like this exchange. That's just that's maturity. That is. But did you have to like learn the hard way that? Like, did you have to have someone take your and then have to be
Mm.
confronted with that situation to say, you know what, I don't want to be hurt because it's hurt. It hurts when you
Yeah, it
feel
hurts.
that someone took something from you, you know? But where did you learn? I know you understand what I'm saying because it's like a
100%.
breakup. It's like, everyone loves to be recognized, and to have attention. And that's
Yes.
normal, that is completely normal. But at the end of the day, if you want to, let's say, take a discipline seriously or an art form
Yeah.
seriously, you can't just take for granted that people like it's like if you watch, let's say, an Olympic competition and you see figure skating
Yeah.
and the person jumps in the air and they do this an incredible thing and they land and it looks like it's science fiction. It's just like you're seeing the end result of years
Yeah.
of practices, how many times they fell, and you know what I mean? So it's a little bit unreasonable for people to expect to be able to do great things without having to suffer a little bit.
100%. I think there are two things there. The first one is there is a cognitive bias called the survivor's bias, which is
Yes. Oh my
basically
Lord.
that, right? In the media and in like public speech and stuff like that, we often praise the things that work. We don't
Hmm.
put attention too much on the things that don't work. And however, like for example, for one of my shows, I had to go through a bunch of performances that sucked, right? Like where
Yeah.
people come out or magician, I used to think friends would look at me in the eye, go, stop everything you're doing. It's not worth it. And you're like,
Mhm.
yeah. Do you
Yeah.
have anything constructive? No, no, no. Your show sucks. There's
Mhm.
nothing you can do about it. Okay, so you need to pull up
Yeah.
with that.
Mhm.
And you're asking me if I lived through that. I think one of
Yeah.
the things that has pushed me to that is it's sort of an advantage and inconvenience. Is that when I was in engineering school, my parents hated, and they still do, that I was doing mentalism to the side, that I was doing artistic stuff, that I was
Yeah.
doing plays and stuff like that.
Mhm.
They saw it really badly, and even the fact that today, like I'm teaching management and stuff like that, they wanted me to become like a computer engineer or something like that,
Yeah.
right? And so they have really, really powerfully discouraged me all those years.
Yeah.
And what I realized was that in second year of my engineering studies, I fell into a very small depression where I got depressed because I felt that there was something for me in like theater and performance,
Yeah.
but at the same time, I didn't know exactly the way to do it. And I
Mhm.
stumbled upon a realization was that if you don't know the profound motivation, you don't have the profound thing of developing those ideas, no one will do it for you.
Yeah.
And that was one of the most powerful realizations that I did. I was with engineering friends who found it really amazing that I was doing all my theater stuff from the other side, but none of them have ever done that before. So I was
Mhm.
alone there. I didn't have um, the encouragement from my family, so they were discouraging me, and whenever they could,
The
they'd tell me stop.
ecosystem.
The ecosystem was not there. And so what I realized was that if I don't know exactly why I'm doing what I'm doing, if I don't know really what I'm trying to develop, no one's going to give that to me.
Mhm.
And so it took me some time to understand and to pose myself and to go, huh, what do I want to develop? And I think that's the second thing as well. You were talking about people want attention. And I'm
Mhm.
going to say something that I know might sound weird, and I have said that to some people who have not believed me, and you're free to not believe me if you want, but I've never done what I do for attention.
Mhm.
And it has never been like fame or attention or celebrity or anything like that has never been the end point. It might be a way to achieve something else, but I've never done that for attention. The only thing that I've done is ask myself how I can give and create value to people that hasn't been created before.
Well, I'll give you an example because I saw your lecture.
Yep.
Okay. And for people who haven't seen it, I mean, you're going to need to sit down with a notebook because, well, first of all, it's 4 hours long, the one that I saw. Okay.
Yep.
The reason why that I find, well, what would be proof that you're not doing it for the intention is because the smile and the energy that you give off when you're trying to transmit the information is palpable.
Mm,
You can feel how happy you are when you see that someone else understands the tool
mm,
and that you could almost sense that you want them to elevate that is basically a stepping stone to be able to go to something else
to
because
develop more.
at the end of the day we're all here and we're creating and that's a privilege but we're not here forever so one thing
Mm.
I find is that people who write like authors and stuff is because I think that is going to serve for future people to be able to continue your work.
Well, that means a lot. Thank you so much, and I'm glad that you. If it passes by, then it's really good, and I think it's one of the things that is sort of lacking in what we see in the media of like attention-seeking people, right? Like it's always about the question that people ask themselves is how do I succeed and how do I bring attention to myself? It's
Mhm.
rarely how do I create value? How do I become useful? And what's interesting is that when you change dilemma and when you change that paradigm behind what you're doing, it changes completely the way you see life. It's no longer about you, it's about how you can bring to society and other people.
Mhm.
And if you get fame from it all, that's good, but it becomes a tool to develop even more and not that
Exactly.
endpoint.
Exactly. But like this, it's a little bit of I see I see a thread coming here. The first thing that when we talk about inspiration, it was a lot about finding that initial vision that
Mm,
is true to you.
yes.
And I'm just curious, is like because like you're saying you hit adversity and stuff like that. Do you think that the resilience to be able to overcome that adversity comes from the strength of the vision? Because I could just
Yeah.
imagine that you must be someone who sets aside a bit of time for meditation and visualization. Like I kind of sense
Hmm.
that. So if the vision is strong enough, it gives you enough. It becomes like real in your mind. It's like there's nothing that could. I know that exists. I
Yeah,
saw it and I felt it like in the dream because another thing is like people sometimes they don't realize the brain can't differentiate what is imagined and what is experienced.
sure.
So if you visualize yourself enough times doing something, you're almost practicing your. It's like a practice run for living in real life. So I'm just curious,
100%.
like, how was that like a tool for you to overcome adversity?
Absolutely. It's like whenever I would have that like stop what you're doing
Hmm.
or it will
Yeah.
never work, etc., etc., you hold on to that vision. And I'm going to talk about some research on that. Stephen Kotler, who's the director of the Flow Research Center in America. So the flow state is that state where you
Wow.
don't feel time pass, right? Exactly.
Like
So
athlete.
they do a lot of research on like that flow state. What their team has found out is that for intrinsic motivation and for
Hmm.
long-lasting motivation, that vision basically needs to have three things. And if you have
Okay.
these
Yeah. Yeah.
three things, then you have a vision that lasts.
Okay. Yeah.
And they call it MTP, massively transformative purpose.
Okay.
These are the three ingredients. Massively means the vision that you're trying to achieve has to feel inspiring
Yeah.
and feel bigger than what you could ever do in your life.
Yeah. Okay.
It needs to be that massive.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you can instantly fall down to like procrastination or lacking the want to do it because if it's
Yeah.
not inspiring, right, someone else
Hmm.
can do it.
Hmm.
The second thing is transformational. You need to be understanding, and this is where the creating value that I was talking about comes
Yeah.
in, is what does it transform? Is it just, if we're talking about for shows, for example, is it just a show? Is it something else? Is
Hmm.
it bringing something? And if you decide like, no, what I want to do is just bring laughter to people, I don't want them to think about something, that's perfectly fine as well.
Yeah.
But you need to be fully aligned with that.
Yeah.
And I think this alignment is something that is often missing. And the third one is purpose. And purpose is the thing that you're defending, the vision that you're defending, it needs to match your most profound values.
Okay.
If you have all these three, then you have something that even in the worst of times,
Yeah.
you can lay back on and you go, I know why I'm doing what I'm doing.
An anchor.
And it's an anchor. And it can feel really, really tiny. But like even in the darkest days, just a
Yeah.
brimmer, a shimmer of light is all you
Yeah.
need to make it through,
Definitely.
right?
Oh yeah. Oh no, for sure. No, that's, I mean, I hope that the people who are listening to this, like, take a little bit of this with them, because it's easily said, but when you put it into practice, I find that over time it actually does benefit you.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
I'll give some examples. Like for me now, I know that all the projects and I have the privilege right now. I know it's a privilege that I can choose the project that I want to work on
Hmm.
without thinking too much about like I need to do this for financial terms and stuff like that. So
Hmm.
I know it's a privilege that it's taken. I'm really happy about it. What I realized is that I always choose projects that sort of tick one of my two main values. And that when I found my MTP, basically, everything is around the idea of exploring human efficiency.
Hmm.
And then there are two main values that I sort of bring up in all my projects is wonder and hope.
Okay,
And these
good.
are the two things that I try
Yeah,
and
yeah.
achieve. Wonder with like because I fundamentally believe that our societies are losing connection to wonder, amazement, opening up to just questions, right? And if we can bring this back to the community, I think it can change lives. And the second one is bring back hope in the sense that bring back the idea that you can do what you want to achieve.
Hmm.
Like it's limited, right? I'm not talking about like, oh, you just need to think it and everything
No,
happens
no.
the way. I'm not saying that, but get back to contact with the fact that if you have adversity, it's not the end point. If there are people that you need to negotiate with, there are tools you can develop in order to get that. There are ways you can sort of advance, and I feel that that brings hope. And all my projects, I try to write them so that they sort of tick both boxes.
Hmm.
If they only tick one, I want it to tick that box, but really, really largely, right?
Yeah,
If not, that's perfectly fine, but I won't do the project.
yeah. So it sounds
And
a bit like Ikigai.
yeah, a bit, right? It has many names, right? Is it ikigai? Is it vision? Is it your identity? Is it your fulfilling purpose? It has a bunch of names depending on how you see it, but it's always the same thing is are you passively living your life and just reacting to everything that's happening to you? Or are you actively trying to achieve something? And
Hmm.
that difference between like the passive people who are just reacting to everything or the active people that are trying to advance, I feel that there's a huge difference when you go from one point to the other.
Too many Indians and not enough chiefs.
Too many. I like that. Too
So,
many not enough juice. Yeah.
so on this humorous note, if we go to step four, which would be exploration. So already we touched a little bit with this, is that like you're saying, letting go of the ego and the openness to share with other people, to elevate
Yeah.
the ideas and stuff like that. And at the very beginning, I was saying like, if you want to produce a show and all that, there's steps. I mean, it's not a small task to be able to
No.
convince strangers to come see a show about invisible thought and influence. You know what I mean? It's like not the most common thing. So to be able to be successful with that, I'm really curious about like the steps, about how you go about surrounding yourself, or how you structure that to be able
Yeah.
to make it work.
It's so I'm going to say something which was different to some of the advice that people gave me up front. When I wanted to launch my show, the first thing that I tried to do first is contact people that have done it before.
Hmm.
Like, the first time that I wanted to launch my show in Paris, I just went, oh, okay, who are the magicians and mentalists that are performing? I wasn't like seen in, I don't know, like the theater marketplace. At that moment, I was just like a young boy in engineering school who's going, hey, I want to launch a show and stuff like that. But what I told myself was that I'm going to contact as many people as possible and hopefully one of them will answer me and at least give me one piece of advice to know how I can advance. So I would say the first thing is if you want to trace a pathway, try
Hmm.
and see people that have traced similar pathways because you can't develop everything like from scratch. You just
Hmm.
can't. It takes too much time. It's too much effort. You need some people that will tell you this and that, right? And once you do that, however, and once you get those different steps, the second thing I would say is believe in the idea that you want to develop.
The
And this
vision.
is the vision exactly. Like, so when I started my show, you would get people because people are not trained to give constructive feedback, right? Like they
Mhm.
can come out of the show, okay, that sucks. Everything sucks. But give me something. Yeah, everything sucks.
Yeah.
It's not going to work. And you go, interesting, thank you very much. Or your friends are going to go, that's amazing. It's really great. You can become the most powerful and most famous person on earth. Wow, congrats. Both of them are not helpful. One of them feels
Mhm.
better than the other one, right?
Yeah.
But in truth, both of them aren't helpful. So I would say two things that help me a lot. First is so three things I would say. First is contacting people that have already traced that pathway.
Hmm.
The second thing is sort of building an idea that you would at least know that it takes time to develop and try out and
Hmm.
not abandon it from the first obstacle
Yeah.
because otherwise you're not going to develop it. And the third thing is, and which I think for me has changed everything, is have a way of getting feedback on what you're doing.
Hmm.
There's many ways to do that. Most often than not, and something that you might see when we develop an idea, like you said, we believe in that idea. It's tender. We have the eureka moment. We hold on to it and stuff like that. Now you take the next step, right? We put a lot of energy and hard work and money, and so we're holding on even more to
Yeah.
that idea. We sort of identify with the idea, right?
Yeah.
Like it's us.
Hmm.
So we don't want people to give their advice on it
Hmm.
because we don't want them to say it's bad. We
Hmm.
don't want them to say there are things that we forgot. And this is often what happens is that we we remove feedback when people are trying to give us constructive criticism that we go, yeah, yeah, that's your opinion. You're allowed to have your opinion, but I won't listen to it. And the thing is that we don't have a way to develop that idea and to see our proper blind spots.
Yeah.
So there are two things that I started doing is whenever I would have friends or people or like magicians, professional magicians at that moment come to see my show, I would take some time afterwards and I would tell them, tell me the things that are wrong.
Hmm.
Please tell me the things that I need to change. Tell me the things where you got bored. Tell me the things that didn't work for you. Tell me the parts of the story that you didn't enjoy. Give me those feedback. I'm
Hmm.
not saying that I'm going to listen to everything, but I need this like
Yeah.
sort of income. And at the same time, tell me the things that worked. Tell me
Hmm.
the things that inspired you. Tell me the things maybe that gave you some specific emotions.
Hmm.
Every single night, I would film myself, and this is something that I've always worked like that, rewatch the video from start to finish and
Hmm.
go, huh, what is happening? Am I getting bored here? Is it interesting? How can I improve this and that? And what that does is that it gives you a way of like getting feedback on what you're doing. And it's just like a you were talking about like Olympic sportsmen, right?
Hmm.
Those that achieve like incredible success and incredible human feats couldn't have done it if they didn't have a coach. It's
Hmm.
just not possible. You can't develop yourself without having a precise way of people outside looking
Hmm.
at you and telling you
Yeah.
this does not work or do this at that precise moment.
Yeah.
And I
A
feel
critical
that this is,
eye, a critical outside eye to look at yourself.
yes, a
Yeah.
critical outside eye. Even if that critical eye is you, like maybe you don't
Yeah.
have anybody you trust,
Hmm.
have yourself become that critical eye,
Yeah.
sort of. But
Yeah.
do it really, not just
Oh yeah,
go,
for sure.
"Huh, it's perfect."
Yeah. No, for sure. And would you say that because sometimes people I find especially online, it's easy for people behind the keyboard to dismantle some person's work or something like that. But sometimes there's a little bit of a grain of truth in there. Do you think that
Mm,
there's a way to condition ourselves to be able to take that nugget of truthfulness and disregard the tone? Because sometimes the tone isn't,
yeah,
because we would love for
the
people
tone is
to
not good.
yeah, we would love for people to adjust the tone all the time and to give us the insight that we need, but sometimes the tone is harsh and
Yeah.
we disregard the constructive part of that because we didn't like the tone.
I 100% agree. Yeah. We're emotional beings, right? Like human
Mhm.
beings. So whenever we've got something aggressive, most often than not, we like sort of strike
Hmm.
back. And I remember like for my second show, the one where it's called Thomas Polgarost, and the one where it's a play, right, with mentalism inside. I knew that I was trying to develop something that I've never seen before, like
Hmm.
that the way that I was trying to get it. And I knew that in the first performances, it wouldn't be a bad show, but it wouldn't be like the greatest thing. There
Hmm.
might be some timing out and stuff like that. So when I started performing, I knew that there was going to be bad feedback. But I remember was that, and that was really funny. A lot of magicians came and looked at me after the show, and they went, so with the tone, go, cancel the show because it's never going to work. Why do you think no one has ever done a play with mentalism before? Because they
Hmm.
don't mix together. Because you
Hmm.
can't break and not break the fourth wall. And I go, okay, really interesting. Tell me what you didn't like. Tell me why. And blah, 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 blah. I continued developing that show over and over and over. And a year and a half afterwards, some of those same magicians
Yeah.
came back to see the new version. They
Hmm.
came out and they were like, oh my God, that has nothing to do with what you tried to develop in the first time. This worked really well. Well done.
Hmm. Hmm.
In my mind, I was like, that's exactly what I was trying to develop. All I needed was like this feedback to advance.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that helped me navigate through this is anticipating the bad reactions. I
Yes.
think that's
Okay.
the
Yeah.
best way that I can do it.
Yeah.
Is often and here's also where the intention is important. If
Hmm.
I'm doing the show and my real profound
Yeah.
intention is for me to be liked,
Oh,
I,
you're gonna get
right?
destroyed.
Exactly.
With pleasure too, you know?
With pleasure, yes.
Yeah.
This is where it gets hard. If
Yeah.
like part of me is doing this to get to be liked, I would say you're not doing it for the best reasons. I
Well,
wouldn't say
you're
good.
sabotaging yourself.
You're sabotaging yourself, 100%. There are other ways to be liked, and personally, that's just a personal belief. I don't think it's a good like vision or objective to just be liked by everybody, because being liked by everybody means being liked by nobody because you're not defending anything
No,
specific.
oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, yeah. And also, if you're
So
liked
it's
by
one of those
everyone,
things.
it's not good because it means that you have to ruffle a little bit of feathers when you're going into unknown territory, you know?
Yes.
So
A
that's the
hundred percent. Otherwise, that means you're not going on into
yeah,
unknown territory, and otherwise and also it means that you don't have an identity. You don't
yeah.
have something specific. And it was one of the advice that helped me out was when I started getting. I remember it crushed me. I'm saying this like from my 8 years of experience now on stage,
Hmm.
right? But at
Hmm.
the start, there were things that were devastating. When I started performing my shows, the first like comments, online comments on like
Yeah,
the ticket reservation stuff were 5 stars by my friends and stuff like
yeah,
that, and 5 out of 5 stars, and really amazing, go see and stuff like that. After 100 or I don't know 50, 60 comments, I got my first like 1 out of 10 review
yeah.
with a huge thing saying like Taha is a really bad person and he's
Gee,
not good on stage. It was one of the most boring things to call this a mentalism show is to put himself on an estrade that he doesn't have even the slightest capability of, and it was
yeah.
really crushing. I didn't sleep for like I don't know how many days after that. Really, it crushed me. And I didn't know what to do. Honestly, at that moment, I was like, I'm going to cancel everything. I'm going to shut down and just cancel all the shows, right? Because it was really hard. And the person like wrote a huge paragraph of like going into every single thing of like not new, not original, waste of time, waste of money, and blah. And you're like, oh, please give me some space. Anyway, what I did was when I found a bit of energy, I went to see a stage a playwright and stage director producer who's a friend of mine, and I shared this to him, and I told him, I just had my first bad comment. I'm feeling really bad. I don't know what to do with that. How do you deal with that? Did you ever get like bad feedback or when you started and stuff like that? And he answered to me something that I've always taken now is he told me, good. The moment where you get your first negative feedback is the moment you've started to become famous.
Exactly. Yeah, I know. Yeah, that
And
kind
I
of.
found that really interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. I heard some people told me that too, and I kind of don't like that
Oh, you don't
because
like that?
no, no, because that is not the goal of investing my time in what I do. You know, it might
Oh,
be a
yeah, yeah, yeah.
byproduct. It might be a byproduct, and some will call it fame because it's you're being recognized
Yeah.
for the work that you did.
Oh, yeah, for the work that you did, 100%. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I 100% agree. I think what he meant was that um, if no one has ever told you, and this is how I've interpreted afterwards. If the only feedback you're getting is only positive feedback,
Yeah.
that means you're always in your close
Your
circle, right?
circle. Yeah.
It's that's exactly it. The moment you start getting those harsh,
Yeah.
without the formalities and stuff
Hmm.
like that, attacks,
Yeah.
that just means that your work has
Yeah.
reached that next circle,
The
or the
map, yeah,
circle even afterwards.
the blip on the radar is further away, and then you're on uncharted territory. And we were talking about the people who get frustrated because they didn't take action.
Yeah,
They're going to speak up, and each time that you're going to go into another sphere, there's going to be more people that didn't take action, and it's just part of the
100%.
yeah of growing, But like you said
And
earlier, to be able to anticipate that it's coming, I find that that's a wise
I
suggestion.
think it's the best thing. But and let me just clarify, if it happens still today here, it's not like I'm Zen Buddha and everything possible. No, I still get hurt. Like
Mhm.
it's still harsh, right? When you get those negative comments, and it's just part of human being. We tend to find a lot of damage in negative feedback rather than
Mhm.
positive ones, right? So it doesn't mean that if you get hurt, then that's bad or that you're not. I don't believe in that. I just believe in resilience, which is when you get those negative feedback, okay, you're going to go down. Maybe you're going to get something that's really harsh. I
Yeah.
remember last year was a really bad moment where I had in January of this year, by the no, last year, I had a huge problem where with my ancient co-producer, we went to trial because he started falsifying documents and stuff like that,
Mhm.
and so he started asking for money changing elements. So it went really bad, and I was preparing the European Best Mentalists competition,
Okay.
where I was primed 2 years before, and I was re-preparing a new number. So I wasn't feeling the best of my days, right? Because I was in the middle of process with my lawyer and stuff like that. So it was really bad. That other person who I thought was a friend was really starting lying and crashing stuff like so. It wasn't good, and I didn't have a lot of time to prepare that competition.
Hmm.
But anyway, I did it nonetheless. I did a horrible performance. It was really bad. I had spectators on stage that would not do what I did. I went over time. It was bad. So I knew it
Hmm.
was bad. So like, never mind. It's fine. It's just practice. What really, really struck me was that every single person there, like for the, I don't know, in the convention you have, I don't know, 100, 200 people, something like that.
Hmm.
And all of those, because they really, really enjoyed my performance 2 years before that, where I
Hmm.
got silver medal and like audience's favorite. Those same
Hmm.
people came back to the competition, one after the other, for the entire weekend. They went and they were like, you were better 2 years before. What happened to you? And you're like, let me die in peace, please. And it's not one, it's not two, it's every single person going like, good effort, but it was better 2 years ago. Good effort, but it was better 2 years.
And
You'll
and
do
they
better
felt the
next.
need to tell you this.
Yeah, they felt the need, and you're like, leave me alone. Don't you think I know I did bad on stage? So yeah, I was crushed for 1 week. I didn't come out. It was really bad. So what I'm trying to say is that it's part of the process. You're going to
Yeah.
put yourself out there. It's part of the process. The best way to deal with it, I feel, is anticipate it because it
Yeah.
reduces drastically that. But if you go through it, it's fine. Like, um,
See, but I think that there's just a little side note to this. I think that it's normal and it's a good thing that it hurts when people criticize a little bit because if you're doing things with true honesty and you're actually putting your heart into it, it's normal that to have an arrow go into it hurt.
mm,
You just have to be able to recognize that that is part of the learning because see
yep,
when those experiences happen to you, you just said you're devastated, but now you're saying you were devastated and you're laughing.
yes,
You know what I mean?
that's true.
So you have to give yourself the time to be able to look back on this and understand that the lesson. But when you're in it, it's
Mm.
don't don't try to run away from it hurting. It's like it's normal.
It's
It's part
part
of
of
it.
the process.
It just means that you're trying hard. Learn
Yeah,
from this,
100%.
and then lick your wounds, go on, and you could respect your vision and respect yourself and go on with it.
Exactly. And these are the moments where you get back to that vision. These are the
Yeah,
moments where you go, I know why I did this, even though
exactly.
it didn't work out. I know why I'm doing this. I know like the vision behind that and it helps out.
So the vision it comes, and you want to bring it into being an entity in this world. Step five, implementation. So what I'm
Mhm.
curious is like, okay, you say lectures and all these events. Do you apply to these things? Do you is it because the body of work becomes substantial and the echoes of this means that people they're the ones who contact you? Uh, Same things for like shows. Like, how do these things blossom or I don't know. Is it because like you have to become, let's say, self-sufficient to a certain point where even if you don't have the context or the belief from outside
Yeah.
people, you'll equip yourself with the resources to bring it into life, no matter the cost.
That's an interesting question. I think it depends on when you are. Like right now, for example, for my theater shows, I've got a small team that works for me. So I've got a diffuser, which is basically a person that just contacts all the theaters in France to try and sell my show
Okay.
because this is huge, and he takes like a commission. I've got a PR who has brought me a lot of journalists and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I've got a my technician who works the is like the sound and light engineer for the technical parts of the show and stuff like that.
Don't lose your idea. I just wanted to say, okay, so
Yeah.
if people listening to this, if you think that people like Taha just snap their fingers, put out a book, vanishing, it puts them on a tour and everything's fake, you're out of your mind, okay?
Yes.
First, it's a business, it's an enterprise, and it's you have to invest in yourself to be able to generate these things. Nothing comes free out of the world for it to just believe in you. I mean, that can happen. That's lottery, it's
Yeah.
luck, but you're your own provider in that thing, and you need tools to be able to go further.
I 100% agree. And one thing about luck, and then I'll get back to the idea, is that I sometimes when I started to talk about these different things and like accompany entrepreneurs, right, on like their strategy and stuff like that, one of the questions that I often get is like, yeah, but you see this company, they just found the like the business angel and they took them out and then it's perfect. And you're like, yes, because luck exists.
Hmm.
There is a person that wins the lottery.
Hmm. Hmm.
Don't play the lottery.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. It's like it's not because there's one person that wins
Yeah.
that gets that stroke of luck that by chance they published their YouTube video and the producer saw it and then there's that. It's true, right? But what you're doing is opening up doors for these chances to happen.
Hmm.
And I think this is the most important thing. What I've always done is, so there are two things. For my trainings, and so for like my lectures and training sessions and consulting in companies, I've had the chance of like for, I've been doing trainings for now, what, like 6 years, I think, in companies. And it's just been word to mouth. So all my new clients are people that have either found me on online, saw my show, found my podcast because I have a weekly podcast
Oh, wow.
on like mentalism and cognitive psychology and how to use it. Um, and or have heard good things about me.
Hmm.
And so what I realized is this is that the way you can open these chances up is two things. You can't control the outcome of whether that luck will happen. However,
Hmm.
there are two things that you can do. First thing, you can make sure that for those that have trusted you, for those that are opening maybe smaller doors for you, right? But you're not noticing them, right?
Hmm.
Um, Try and get the most out of it and try
Hmm.
and give them the best value.
Yes.
That's the most important thing. Like I if you get a person, like I really feel a client that tells a magician to perform at their, I don't know, a wedding or company or a night or whatever, this is already a part of like a trust process, right? Like they've sort of put trust in you. And it's not because they have like a small budget or it's a smaller company or you wanted that bigger client that you don't have to be grateful for them opening up. If it doesn't work, you can just tell them no and it doesn't work because it's not big. But we're often like finding the bigger fish or looking for the bigger fish that we don't realize that the fish that we have already can feed us enough. I don't know
Sustain
if that
us.
makes
Yeah.
sense.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
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 And I think this is the first thing that's important is creating the maximum value out of this so that by word to mouth, more and more, we get more opportunities. And the
Hmm.
second thing is putting yourselves out there in the best of ways and allowing people to get to know the created value of your work.
Hmm.
Because if you do great work, but you're nowhere to be seen,
Exactly.
you don't talk about what you do, you
Yeah.
don't give things out, then how can people know about you?
Hmm.
And so I think it's a mixture. And I think that's what I've done. It's one of the strategies that I give to, because I teach a lot of entrepreneurs like strategy and identity development for their companies. And one of the things that I give them is create as much um, indirect, client uh, prospective strategies, I would say.
Hmm. Hmm.
Like rather than directly prospecting by taking the phone or sending a mail or like going to LinkedIn, right? Which is what we do, or create as much passive incomes. How do you create passive ways? Well, do things that put your image, put your value, put your work out there
Hmm.
that you enjoy doing.
Hmm.
So in the worst case scenario, you're just doing something that you enjoy.
Yeah.
In the best case scenario, it's building up your identity and your image. And I think it's a mixture of both of these things that can sort of help you get to where you're doing. And I've had the chance of like meeting good people, and I've had projects where it didn't work out and the project failed with like my previous co-producer where it was
Hmm.
horrible. But I've had people right now with my team that are working. But are they the best in the world? I don't know. Do I trust them? Yes.
Hmm.
And I think we just need to be open as well and be okay with what we have right now. For 2 years, I was doing everything on my own. I was in a small theater in Paris. It was filling up. I was doing the lobbying, the communication, stuff like that. Was I happy? Yes. Am I more happy today? I don't know. I just know that I'm doing different projects.
Yeah.
But I think it's important to like learn what you need to learn. And if you don't find the correct people, then do it the best you can.
Yeah.
Start small. Don't like try big and then crash yourself because
Hmm.
this will be the worst thing. You fall down way too hard, it's hard for you to get up.
Yeah.
So start small and develop one after the other. I'll give you a parallel. I was another friend of mine from my same engineering school. He's 2 years older than me. So his father is a professional magician. He's
Hmm.
always wanted to become like a magician or an actor, but he finished his studies, engineering studies, and then he started working like energy and tech companies and stuff like that. When he saw me start to perform in Paris, he started to get inspired and he told me, "Oh, I want to write my own show and stuff like that." So I helped him put out his first show and he started performing it. And after like the fifth um, performance, he was devastated and he was like, I don't understand how you're doing. You're filling up your show and you get like, I don't know, 50 or 70 people twice a week. I'm struggling to get 10 people come to my show. I don't know how you're doing. This is not for me. And I'm like, okay, calm down.
Hmm.
Just zoom out. This is your fifth show ever.
Hmm.
Me, my first two shows that I ever did in Paris, I canceled them because I had only three people coming.
Hmm.
You're comparing yourself that has just started to me that has started 2 years ago. So it's not comparable. It's not comparable. And what I told him was like, compare yourself to what you're doing, what you need to do,
Yes.
and advance. You can't compare yourself to, oh, this person is succeeding more. You don't know what happened in their pathway. Maybe they started doing this 10 years ago. Maybe they got lucky. But everything needs to have like to happen in its own pace. I would say that.
Yes. Yeah, 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 it's true. It's like you say, you can't uproot a vegetable before it has time to gestate, you know? You have to leave it
Yeah,
take root
exactly.
and then grow. And the nourishment that it takes eventually over time will bear
Just the
fruit.
process. You just
Yeah.
need to trust the process.
That's
And
why it's
if
a
it
great
doesn't
name
work,
to show the process. It's so good.
yes,
No, you thought of that name.
absolutely.
That
That's
is
amazing.
incredible. Hey, so we already went through these five questions in the blast. I mean, there were so many great gems in this. It was such a fantastic exchange with you. I really appreciate
It was a
all the
real
time.
pleasure. Thank you so much.
Is there anything like in regards to like well, you just mentioned there's projects anything that you want to like share in regards to like your projects that you want people to know, or did you have a website or anything like that? As you want?
Yes, so I have a website called tahamansour.com where I've got everything on there. If people want to know, like if magicians and mentalists want to know a bit about my work, one of the things that I try to do a lot in mentalism is get the real aspect of it. And
Hmm.
so since you have the lecture, you sort of see what I mean. And so it's one of the things that I try to develop in practical cold reading, which is trying and find a reliable and useful system that
Hmm.
pushes the mentalism performance to something that becomes more real and where
Yeah,
you feel that you're sort of doing real mind reading.
definitely.
And so this is on Vanishing Ink. There, I have my website, Instagram, but most of the things that I post is French. So if you do speak French, then feel free to follow it. If not, my website and stick around for other things that are coming out, I would say.
Well, definitely. Well, I'll be posting the links for everything in the bio. But again, thanks for your time and looking forward to new projects in the new year.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.